What do you think is the best way to present meditation to children? I really have no idea what the best way to present meditation to children is. I would imagine very simply, keeping it very basic, teaching them a simple meditation technique like breath awareness, and then maybe allowing them to focus on that for maybe 2, 3, 5 minutes at a time. That's all I can say about that. Question number 2. Please explain how souls fall from their pure conscious state. Now, I don't know, but I do have some theories, and this is what comes from spiritual literature and spiritual writing. The main thing that seems to draw a soul from its pure conscious state, and that is desire, and that is what you might call craving. Okay, so all of us are individualized units of this one infinite divine consciousness. And when we are established in that, everything is clear, peaceful, whole, balanced. Okay. Now, once you're in that pure conscious state, as soon as a little desire arises, whether it be for anything, that immediately starts the process of creating the circumstances for you to experience that. So, for example, I think I might have used this example before. Say you want a dog. Okay. So there you are in your pure conscious state, and all of a sudden it arises that you would like to have a pet. And so you get this idea that you need to have a dog, and then what you need to do is have a body first so that you can interact with this creature. And then what you need to do is have a job, and then once you have a job, you have to interact with people, and so on, and so on, and so on. So you see this one craving, this one desire, sets up this process of a whole life of incarnation. So that's usually how it works, is from craving and desire. And then to take that another step, to go backwards, how do you re-experience a pure conscious state? Just about every spiritual text and teacher that I know of says that one of the best ways to experience enlightenment or clarity is by giving up craving and giving up desire. And that doesn't mean that you don't function within the world. It just means that you do not allow those things that you think you need to have, those obsessions, those compulsions, you don't let them rule your life. Now, we all need to eat, we all need to pay our bills, we all need to do this sort of thing. Those are natural things. So you just do that as it comes out. But things which you get your mind around that you do not feel satisfied until it occurs, that is a craving, that's a desire, and that's what you need to give up. Okay. How can one attain spiritual gifts? So the best way to do that is, one, meditate until you experience a clear superconscious state. And the way you do that easily is by bringing your awareness up to the spiritual eye and to the crown chakra and practicing your meditation technique while focused here. And then the gifts you might want to be considering should be ones in line with where your interests lie. So, for example, if it's healing, one of the things that you can do is, as you meditate, keeping your attention up here, after you're done meditating, you simply ask, how can I help this person, or how can I develop healing skills or healing abilities? And then follow whatever guidance arises from that. You might find that it naturally just occurs, that you find that you have it, or that you're led to a teacher, or to a book, or to a writing, or something which will bring that about. But really the whole idea is to set your intention after you've been in a superconscious state, and then be receptive to whatever the opportunities bring about. But that's the same thing with anything in life, whether it be spiritual gifts, or healing that you might need, or anything that you need. You meditate until you're as clear as you can be, bring your awareness up here, and then ask, how can this be? And when you ask, how can this be, you don't want to ask in the way of doubting, like, how on earth could this be, right? It's more like, all right, how could this happen? So you want to have like a curious feeling about it. So how could this happen? And then wait and allow it to come up. And sometimes when you're meditating, the responses don't come immediately. However, what you'll find as the days and the weeks go by, things will start coming into your life, which will present the opportunities to you. So don't get hung up on the fact that if you're meditating and you're asking a question, you're asking for something, if it doesn't immediately occur. Because what you're doing is you're putting into play, so there's the little you, which is the mind, body, and the personality, which is limited. Okay? And there's the bigger you, which is the infinite consciousness, your real, big, eternal spiritual self. And so this little you can do what it can do, but if you surrender to the process and you allow it to come into your life, you're setting into play the cogs, the wheels, for the rest of you, the bigger you, to bring it into your life. So remember, there's little you, bigger you, and sometimes it takes time to bring it into your awareness. Okay? All right, next question. All right, so did Roy Eugene Davis acquire his knowledge of spiritual processes through inquiry, Does one have to be in a superconscious state to practice inquiry? And when I meditate and ask questions, I feel no answers. Why? Okay. So Roy acquired his knowledge of spiritual processes through his teacher, Yogananda. And that's usually the best way to acquire these things, is by finding someone who knows it, can share it with you. Now, Roy did spend a couple years with Yogananda studying under him, but the last 50 or so years he's been doing his own thing. But what we have to remember is that when a person is clear and aware, you can get spontaneous insights, spontaneous guidance. And this spontaneous guidance, in the Yoga Sutras it says that God, or the Lord of the universe, is the teacher of even the ancient gurus. And Yogananda even said that he wasn't the guru, that God was the guru. All right. So the person that you interact with, this is a representation of the guru lineage, the teacher lineage within this material world. But what they represent is what's important. So for example, when you attune to the gurus, when you're meditating and you think of them, you see them in your mind's eye, try not to think that you're worshiping their personality, because that's not it. It's what does their personality represent? What does their state of consciousness represent? And then you also are able to have insights. And we have to remember that all of this comes from yogic and Vedic knowledge. And what does Veda mean? It means knowledge, self-revealed knowledge. So the clearer you are, the easier it is to turn within and ask, okay, how does this work? And what might occur is you'll get a little bit of insight, and that's just one piece of the puzzle. And every day you ask, okay, what is God? What is the divine? And every day you just get a little bit more of this insight. And also, the more that you ask, the more you inquire, what am I? What is God? What you're essentially doing is you're increasing your sensitivity to that reality. So right here and right now, God is here. Remember we read from the Bhagavad Gita last week that God is the wetness in water, the heat within fire. He's the feeling of the air, the sound, everything basically. And we're always experiencing that, whether it rains, whether we're in the shower, whether we see the sunshine. So we're experiencing it, but we don't have the sensitivity to it. And so by meditating, by directing our awareness in this way, by asking, what is God, what is the divine, every single day, a little bit of us becomes a little more sensitized to that experience. So how do you acquire this knowledge? Again, practice the techniques you're taught from your teacher, that you've read about, the ones that work for you. All right. For example, I've always mentioned that my process is I do alternate nostril breathing for about 10 minutes, then I sit quietly, and then I'll do Sushumna breathing or Kriya Pranayama. I'll sit quietly, and then I'll bring my awareness up here and simply hold my attention here. And that's what works for me. But you see, these are specific techniques, and all of you have had experience with the technique, whether it be mantra practice or breath awareness. So find the one that allows you to experience a clear state and then sit there. Once you're in that clear state, inquiry happens by expecting to have the information revealed to you. So for example, if you want to know someone's name, what do? You ask. So, what's your name?
Daniel.
Okay. Now, I expected him to tell me that, right? When you ask someone their name, they hardly ever don't tell you. Maybe sometimes they do, but not that I'm aware of. But that feeling you have when you ask someone a question that you know is going to answer you, you need to have that feeling inside. So for example, God is not withholding information from you. God is not keeping you in the dark about anything. The divine consciousness wants you to experience this clarity and this freedom. And so if you do your best to sit still and then ask, for example, what is the divine consciousness? And you only have to ask it once, right? Because what happens? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? See, there's no time to respond. You just have to ask once.